Hi everyone, welcome back to True Astrology podcast. My name is Nicole.
And I'm Dave.
Today we're going to talk about Gemini and Sagittarius axis. And this is all about the learning.
And communication.
That's really well-known information. And let's dive a little bit deep into the information.
Yeah.
So Gemini, the symbol, when you actually see that, it looks like a number 2.
Yeah,
right?
in Roman numerals.
And again, so number 2, the twin,
Yeah.
and the Gemini, it kind of like matches all together.
Yeah. And in esoteric symbolism, it represents two towers.
And two pillars.
Yeah, two pillars, like in Boaz and Jachin.
Yeah, in tarot,
Yeah.
the two pillars keep coming out as a background.
Yeah. So like the good example would be the high priestess has the two pillars.
She's sitting in between the two pillars and representing in between world.
Yeah.
And also many other figure in the major arcana has the two pillars as well.
That's correct.
And some minor arcana has a pillars, but it looks like more like a wand and looks a little bit different. But pillars has a really deep information. So when people get married and people kind of pass through that little
Archway, right?
Right? So the archway is also the form of the pillars. So that when you enter that and then you're entering into the new world or a new reality.
Yeah, it's like a gate, right?
And things like that. So the Gemini is the point of the actual manifestation of the physical reality. Gemini really talks about the human experience, and in higher dimension standpoint, and they don't really have a good or bad and black and white in and yet everything is in the one. That's why higher frequency or higher mindset is more like a unity concept, right? But the duality actually happens starting from the 3D. So Gemini not only representing 3D reality, which is like Earth, the place we are living in, the human body, and the duality mindset or the concept, yes or no, good or bad, evil or the angel, all that duality things happening in here in this world.
And then if we actually go to the Gemini card in the tarot, it's the Lover's card.
And the Lover's card represents not only like a lovers in the relationship, but also it represents the child.
Or siblings as well.
Siblings and like a local neighborhood, things like that. But again, so because of this talks about the 3D, the first place that has a duality concept, so it represents human. So that's why in the Lover's card, there's the higher being, looks like an angel. It's a behind the scene with like a sun as a background, and then the Adam and Eve looks like a figure is standing in naked, and it has a like a tree behind, and we have a mountain, we have a meadow, and when you actually look at the card closely, there's a snake coiling up the one of the tree. There's a 12 flame behind the guy's body, and there's all the like elements inside of the card. So it really representation of a human. And in like a human society, we have like brothers and sisters, we have like community, and we have like all the like communication happening in there. So that's kind of like an overall holistic view of the card.
Yeah.
And another thing about the Gemini is the sign Gemini not only looks like a number 2, and also looks like 11. Number 11 in the numerology is such a sensitive sign. So like anything comes down to number 11. For example, when you put a word in the numerology decipher, if it comes down to 11, those numbers have a like really sensitive topic. Let's say like black and white, and even angel number 1111, and people start like reacting to that 1111 more than the other angel numbers because that carries that energy. And because of that, this sensitive energy carries that Gemini. It has a little bit of a like a conflict energy.
Yeah.
So Gemini is really known for fighting because of it's a twin sign, and one is to say yes and one is saying always no.
Yeah, so it represents polarity and opposite extremes, and that's where the conflict comes, right? So it could be seen in being two-faced, such as politicians, right? It could be, trying to pinpoint what you want to learn within that spectrum of things. So sometimes that conflict is internal as well as external, because Gemini really, in essence, is about choices. It's about making choices, making the right choices. But how can you make the right choices if you don't have experience, right? So that's why a lot of times Geminis have that curiosity to go out and experience everything in that spectrum from A to Z. And then with enough experience, then they can start to refine their
What they
choices.
like
Yeah,
and what they don't like.
exactly.
So the sensitivity that Gemini carries, the best manifestation is the curious. If you're not sensitive, you're not curious. If you're not sensitive enough to catch that, like why this structures like that, why this color is yellow, if you don't have that keen mindset, you're not gonna learn anything, right? So imagine like kids around like 5 to 7 years old, they're curious.
Yeah.
They want to know everything. It's like, mommy, what is a washroom? What is that washroom stand for? Why people call that washroom? Why we go there? Why we have to wash our hands? They constantly ask, what is this? And the why, right? So that's the Gemini quality. And surprisingly, people who has a heavy Gemini energy, they like to teach people, especially children.
Yeah, so early childhood education. And also local tour guides who teach about the local neighborhood, and usually to tourists, right? So tourists would represent Sagittarius, and we'll get to that a little later in this podcast.
Oh, and also Gemini is such an adaptable sign because of this is a mutable air and really playful, very versatile, very communicative, and it's like a lot of information, but it's a little bit shallow. So imagine when we were young, like when we were children, grade school, we learned like taekwondo, we learned how to draw, how to make something, and writing or mathematics. We learned so many things, but in a shallow level of the information.
That's right, because it's like trying to navigate through the ocean and going wide from east to west and also going deep, right? And it's just not possible with just a finite amount of time. So that's why it's really about sampling and taste testing, a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
right? And then once you create that container of what you like and don't like, then you can start to indulge, right? And have that buffet of all the combination of things that you enjoy in life.
Let's talk about the negative aspect of the Gemini.
So the classic negative aspect of Gemini is like the two-faced, backstabbing, the trickery. So if you look at the Gemini industry, for example, right? Such as door-to-door salesman or car salesman.
Because I know there's a really good car salesman, but the reputation of the car salesman is a little bit bad, right?
Yeah. It's more like the used car salesman, right?
Yeah. It's like a conman artist.
Yeah.
It's like a Gemini.
Yeah,
trait.
or a mechanic, right? So someone who says they fixed your car but they didn't, they actually created more problems for your car so that you would come back for those things. So just those petty scams and petty theft, like that all is ruled under Gemini.
And also another negative aspect about Gemini is, I would just say, you might have a second marriage. I wouldn't say this is a bad aspect, but you might cheating on your a partner, maybe not sexually, but let's say Gemini always want to have a partner. So maybe you have a work partner and then you have your relationship partner.
Or Gemini needs a lot of mental stimulation. And if they don't get that in their relationships, then they go outside of the relationship to find that BFF type of energy to satisfy.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and also people who has a heavy Gemini, they always fight. They always fight with the community because that fighting energy is actually coming from one of the star, the Castor and Pollux. they have the fighting in the community types of energy. So if you have that energy, just be aware of that. And another negative aspect about Gemini is people cannot make a decision
Yeah.
because there are too many options. It's like you ask like kindergarten kids at like a pick let's say you can only pick one in the candy shop.
Yeah.
How, right? So there's so many choices that kids don't know and flavor, haven't experienced. How can the kids make a decision, right? So, but the good thing is that Gemini can make a decision through the Sagittarius axis.
Yeah.
When you actually see that Gemini constellation, there's a two baby angels, right? Pollux and Castor, and one is holding a harp, and the other one is holding a arch, right? So the arch is a representation of
Sagittarius.
exactly. So you have to go the other axis to get out of the negative aspect about the Gemini.
When you go into Sagittarius, you are focusing your energy. And also, Gemini represents the lower mind or the conscious mind, whereas Sagittarius is the bigger picture or the higher mind, right? So it's basically dipping into spirituality, what you believe, the more esoteric and the more spiritual aspects of life. So you can see that going through the Gemini journey first to experience all of the choices in life, and then going into like university or to specialize, going into post-secondary to specialize, getting your master's or your doctorate.
So like a
right?
bigger pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, bigger.
And so that's when you would go and then you would learn about, philosophy, all the Sagittarius themes, right?
So that's why Sagittarius is a representation of the university. A little bit of a library, but more like a higher knowledge standpoint.
Yeah, it's about taking all of your choices and experiences and turning that into wisdom.
Exactly. Let's talk about more about Sagittarius.
Sagittarius is represented by the bow and arrow or the archer. And in mythology, it's actually the half man, half horse, right? So if you notice a lot of the Sagittarians in life, they can run very well. Right, because
And
horses
they can go far.
yeah, and usually have really nice toned bodies, right? So if you know any Sagittarius risings, they are athletes or they're really good runners at a very young age, right? Because they're just used to that horse archetype. And also because it's a fire sign, it's very action oriented, it's very passionate, right?
It's very masculine
Yeah,
sign.
very masculine. And even though air is also masculine, it's more mental, whereas fire is more passion and it's more action oriented. The mantra about Sagittarius is I believe, right? So what you believe in is where you focus your energy. And so if you take it to one end of the spectrum, it's about preaching in what you believe in. It's religion. It's, again, the higher mind is the bigger perspective, the God perspective, right?
Exactly. So I believe when Pluto was in Sagittarius, that all the church members, they were like burning to go in the world, everywhere in the world to bring their belief system.
Yeah, so like missionaries,
Yeah,
right?
missionaries. So I believe during that time they went to literally everywhere and so that everyone can hear what they believe.
Yes.
So that is the mindset of the mutable fire. So powered by belief system.
Yeah.
So that's why Sagittarius has a little bit of a dictatorship. Once they believe, they just go.
Yeah. And it's really very difficult to change someone's belief system once it has been ingrained into the subconscious, right? So again, Gemini, we're talking about conscious brain. It's how you process information. But Sagittarius, it's the subconscious brain.
This is really interesting because the mutable signs are malleable. But this mutable fire Sagittarius is well known for dictatorship and fixed like a belief system, my way, highway. However, it's really interesting that representation of the mutable fire is because even though you have a strong belief system from the subconscious mind, you can always change because Sagittarius is a higher mind, university, or like smart people.
Yeah.
So once they have an open mind to study about what they actually believing in, and they can able to put the dots together,
Yeah.
they can research about their factual thing, and they can change their mind.
Yeah. And the way you reprogram your belief system or your subconscious is you have to actually go back to the
Gemini.
Gemini spectrum, right?
Yeah, Gemini spectrum is more shallow and wide,
Yeah.
right? So you can play all other like thesis and all other information, and then you can like consolidate.
Rediscover, and if you take it from a practical standpoint, it's like you start your career in early childhood education, you learn everything from math, sciences to phys ed to music, and then as you go into high school, you start to kind of refine what you want to learn. And then if you decide to go into post-secondary education, then you spend 4 years focusing on that major or a double major. A Gemini would do a double major,
Yeah.
obviously, does everything in twos. But then when you get into the workforce, you realize, you know what, after 10 years, this is not what I want to do, right? So many times, what do? They go back and they take courses in something else, which is also a very Gemini thing, or they go back to the drawing board and then they realize they have to go back to the early stages of education and do the re-education. And then after that, then they can start to specialize in a completely different field. So it's really an axis. Once your belief system is determined, it doesn't mean that it's set in stone because it is a mutable sign. You can still go back, but to reprogram the subconscious, which is the Sagittarius side of you, it's a lot harder. But the solution is to go back to the Gemini side, be a little bit more curious, be playful, be open-minded, be adaptable. And then once you figure that out, then you can reprogram your subconscious, then focus on what you believe again, right? So if
So
you
that
look at
sounds like the early childhood education is really, really important because if kids has a limited viewpoint of a world
or limited experience,
at such a young age,
Yeah.
and like when they grew up, they don't really have an open mindset to change their belief system, viewpoint of the world, and things like that. So, like, if you guys have like a kids, or if you're in the educational field, give your kids as much as experience as possible. That's what kids need.
Yeah, and that also reminds me, Gemini also rules the news. And how many people actually tune into the news every day? And if you look at it from a information standpoint, yeah, they conveniently deliver all the things that are happening in the world, or at least locally. But what that information is mostly it's for ratings, right? So they're usually biased and it's like bent towards the negative, right? So like crime, all the negative things happening in the city. So it's injecting this fear. But what is that doing in the long term? It's actually reprogramming your subconscious.
Exactly. If you keep on injecting yourself with the fear-based media every day, then your subconsciousness will be changed by that, you know? So whatever you watch, whatever you read daily basis is also very important.
Yeah, and also social media now has become a replacement for the news. So if you're constantly tuning in to a specific algorithm, then you're completely retraining or reprogramming your subconsciousness based on all those algorithms that the platforms are delivering to you.
So to comparison, if you want to spread news in Gemini way, you use a social media. Or in a negative way, it's like the rumor or the gossip is spreading through your local community.
Yeah.
But Sagittarius way of delivering news is more faster. For example, in astrology, there's a few things are related to vital energy. The first one is a Uranus because it carries the electric energy and it just happened and everyone knows. And another one is a Neptune. Neptune has very hypnotic energy. It just reaches out to your deepest subconscious with the music or like image and drama or movie and things like that. And the other one is the early degree of the Sagittarius. We're going to talk about it in the future when we talk about the minor arcana. So early degree Sagittarius represents of Eight of Wands. And Eight of Wands is only two card in the tarot that doesn't have any human or any beings.
Yeah.
So this is like purely the information or merchandise or any information just go far away. So for example, if the Gemini representation of the, let's say Uber or like a DoorDash, and Sagittarius is a representation of airfare, FedEx, and fast delivery to the different countries.
Yeah, because Gemini is local, as in your local country, within your local borders, within your local municipality, your local state or province. And Sagittarius is anything outside of those boundaries. So it's dealing with foreigners, foreign countries, and long distance travel. So airlines, anything that is not on the ground, right? So like cars, Gemini, and planes, Sagittarius.
Let's talk about the positive side of the Sagittarius.
So when I think about Sagittarius, I think about adventure, the digital nomad, right? That lifestyle is all Sagittarian because they don't really have the grounding, and they're just like, I don't care where I go, where I decide to travel to, whether it's a foreign land, foreign country, that will become my home, right? So that's really the Sagittarius mindset. And it gets restless after a while when you don't have anywhere to go back to. So constantly being on the move doesn't really help you in the long term.
That actually remind me of the story about the bluebird story. So people were looking for the bluebird, equals like happiness, and they went to everywhere to look for the bluebird, but at the end they found that happiness right below their foot, right? So the Gemini and Sagittarius axis are like that because if you don't have any foundation, the Sagittarius doesn't have anywhere to come back, or they don't really care about their like a foundation. They just on the go, 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 go. And later they realize that they don't really have a home base and things like that. And my brother has like a Gemini stellium. He really like to stay home. He born and raised in the same like area, and he doesn't want to go outside. He was in Sydney for a couple of years. He hated. A lot of people like would love to, enjoy the scenery and like a life there. But he hated. He always wanted to go back to home. He's most comfortable at home, and he doesn't have any desire to go far away. But like I'm Sagittarius rising, so I am living in Canada, and like I'm far away from home, right? So the Sagittarius people actually tends to go far away, foreign land, or married to foreigners and things like that as well.
Yeah, and if someone has a stellium in either Sagittarius or Gemini or in any other axes, they become very polarized to the one side. They become too off balance. And that's why a lot of times we tend to seek and attract the opposite sign. So if you're a Gemini sun, you would then attract a Sagittarius sun into your life, because then you guys can kind of give and take and balance each other out, so that you have a little bit of curiosity and adventure at the same time. And obviously there has to be an element of compromise and integration, and there has to be compatibility. So you still have to enjoy the same things, enjoy going to the same places, and have the same similar value systems and similar belief systems. And if those things are all a go, then why not, right?
And Sagittarius is such a like intuitive sign, because when you see the tarot card, the Temperance, and the figure looks like an angel standing in the like nature, and one foot is in the water and the other one is standing on the ground. So Sagittarius has the ability to in between that world to getting all the information and higher knowledge.
Yeah, when I think about Temperance card, I think about alchemy, right? So you're alchemizing, two different elements, or you're trying to synthesize and alchemize, many elements into one. It's taking all of the Gemini type of energy and synthesizing it into one complete package.
So you believed in one thing, but you meet other smart people in the university, collecting all other information, and then you mix them together and you're creating something amazing. So that sounds like the Temperance card and Sagittarius. But when Sagittarius is negatively aspected, that masculinity comes with a dictatorship, as I mentioned that. And in Eastern astrology, Sagittarius is equivalent to the year tiger. Jupiter moves 1 year per sign, and it's coincide with the 12th zodiac animal. And Sagittarius is the tiger. So in Korea, for example, there's a saying that you don't get married the woman born in the tiger because they have such a strong opinion. They don't take no as a no. They're like really demanding. So in Eastern culture, the woman who has all that quality is a little bit taboo, I guess. So that's why tiger sign has such a like a bad reputation for the female. But to me, yeah, like when the Sagittarius has like a negatively aspected, so that strong opinionated or my way, highway types of personality can be dominant. But those people, when they can use this mutable fire energy, they can always make their philosophical and higher mind to creating something amazing as well. And another biggest differences between this Gemini and Sagittarius is the ruler for Gemini is
Mercury,
and the Sagittarius is
Jupiter.
so the Mercury is action oriented and the Jupiter is expansion oriented. So in the Gemini sector, we actively go hockey class, we actively go like drawing class when we
Yeah.
were young. After class, we play with the kids. We had a playground time. So like kids are really active, right? So it's
Yeah.
action oriented.
And it's all the skills that you pick up.
And then Jupiter is just expansion, just want to go far away. And once you have a like aha moment, one belief, one mind,
Yeah.
one thing that you really believing in, and they just want to promote that, you know?
That's right, because Jupiter is the planet that seeks knowledge and exploration, but ultimately truth as well. It's seeking for that deeper truth that you don't always get with Gemini. The lessons for Gemini is you have to fact check. You know, during the pandemic, we had the North Node actually in Gemini. And so we had this dualistic part of our local neighborhoods where you were able to do one thing, but you weren't able to do another thing. But many times, those dualistic things didn't make sense. They were confusing and they were even contradictory at times.
Yeah, it's like at the restaurant.
Yeah.
You can only pick up, but you cannot dine in. But if the restaurant size is big enough, you
Yeah.
can dine in, but everyone have to sit far away each other. And it was really weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the social distancing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also the pickup and the delivery.
That was
and
all like a Gemini related theme. So another thing got really popular during North Node in Gemini was the expansion of the Zoom meeting. And a lot of people attended their university classes through online. And during that time, a lot of people actually produced a lot of master classes, online classes,
Courses,
courses as well.
Yeah. And so many people picked up new skills on YouTube just because everybody was home, right? And had nothing to do. So that Gemini energy got really highlighted during that 18-month period. And so, again, if you were able to just fact check your way through that pandemic, I think you would have had an easier time getting through all of that confusion.
Oh, and also when you put the tarot card side by side, the lovers and the temperance, and you can see that like the angel figure in the lovers and the angel figure in the temperance, right? So we mentioned that the lovers is such a human thing. So the first place that duality is happening in the 3D reality, and it represents us, me and you and our brothers and sisters and all the animals and all the minerals. But learning more with a curious mind and going into the Sagittarius route to the higher mind, and we can go closer to the angel appears in the both card. So like a higher mind. So we can be less of the human dualistic mindset, but we can go into more like a unity mindset.
Yeah, I agree. So you're taking the Gemini energy and you're creating that one higher mind based on all the experiences.
And also the ruler of the Sagittarius, Jupiter, is king of the gods. And also I have a Venus in Gemini, and Dave, you have a Venus in Gemini too. So Venus represents something we enjoy, something we like, it brings us joy and harmony. We both have it, and it happened to be astrology and esoteric knowledges and things like that. So that's why we named our astrology branding as a true, right? So it representing like a Gemini thing.
That's right. We enjoy learning about the same things. And so we get two different perspectives. So that's how we represent that Gemini energy. And we recently launched our Astro Journal and Planner for 2025. And it's a 15-month calendar where you can jot down all your experiences that you've had with the sun being in each degree of the zodiac. We really want to document our journey with astrology and how certain events happen on certain degrees of our natal charts. We can then look back at previous years and see where we can find connections. And it'll just really help us to connect the dots and then to make wiser decisions when we have any upcoming transits during those seasons or during those degrees of each zodiac sign.
Exactly. Please check them out. We're going to link the Amazon link in the description. We are going to produce the 2026 very soon. And I hope that you enjoy this Astro Journal as well. And join with us next podcast. We're going to talk about the Cancer and Capricorn axis.
Yeah. And that's all about security and foundations and what you want to achieve in this world. So it'll be very interesting. And stay tuned for that later this week.
Okay, bye for now.